Off. Merry Christmas, Darling from the Carpenters on BBC Radio Devon. If you were listening to the show yesterday, you may remember that we were speaking to an underwater diver who was telling us about how things have changed in the 40 years that he's been doing it. Well, today we're going to go up onto the moor where the Ashburton team of Dartmoor Search and Rescue Group is currently celebrating its 40th birthday. From walking boots and anoraks to GPS and defibrillators, let's find out how much their world has changed in the last 40 years. With me now are Hill Party leader Steve Jones and fundraising officer Al Pewsey. Good morning to you. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, you're all volunteers, but how much does it cost to keep you on the road today in modern Devon?
That's a good question. It costs us approximately £50,000 to £20,000 a year to keep the team operational.
Wow.
So that funding is predominantly public-based donations. So over 92% of our funding is from the good people of Devon, as well as businesses who support us in lots of different ways, whether it's through sponsoring event, giving us money through donations or other ways. So we rely completely on the generosity of our communities in Devon to keep us running. And
we do take you for granted to a certain extent. We expect you to be there when we need you, don't we?
Well, you do, yes. We're on call 24/7. So over Christmas we shall be on call as per normal to assist the police, the ambulance and the fire service with any emergencies that may arise where they need our skill, resource and knowledge to help them to bring things to a conclusion.
And I should tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that they do have the Land Rover outside, so we may curtail this interview at any given moment if the bleeper goes off.
Yes, the vehicle officer does know, so I've got the clearance from him. So
marvellous, marvellous. Steve, people may be surprised by the extent of the area that you cover. Tell us about how far-reaching your service is.
Well, we stretch from older South Hams and as far as Two Bridges and as far as Fundraising Forest. That's our area we actually cover, but we do go outside of Devon sometimes.
I saw Lyme Regis on a map. Would you go to Lyme Regis?
Yeah. I mean, the way that the four Dartmoor teams work is we have a sector each, so we're the predominant team that covers the sort of southeastern sector. So as Steve says, that goes from sort of the middle of the moor down to South Ham, South Devon, down Salcombe and the Prawl Point down to there, and then all the way across Torbay, Exeter to Lyme Regis. So we could be called for moorland searches, urban searches and rural searches as well.
Now, you've celebrated the 40th anniversary by producing a brilliant book, which I mentioned to you a minute ago during the Carpenters. This has been back and forth between Exeter and Plymouth on the train 7 times with me now, and I still haven't exhausted it. I was really, really touched by the original team kit. This is what you would have carried 40 years ago. 1 Thomas stretcher, 1 head guard, 6 straps, 2 first aid bags, 2 radios, which were Pi Westminsters in a box with a 12-volt battery, 14 Shermery parachute flares, 20 day-night smoke flares, 1 magnetic aerial, 3 6-volt hand lamps, 120 feet of 11mm rope, feet and inches and metric measurements juxtaposed there, look. 2 survival bags and 5 MRC armbands.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Indeed.
Yes.
How does that compare to the sort of gear that you have now?
It's come along some way since then, Steve, I think, hasn't it?
It certainly has. We have 2 stretchers now. We have the Bell and McInnes stretcher, which Alex kindly got wheels fitted to them for us, going back in the early days. But yeah, we got radios now. We got about
30 odd
radios. Each Hill Party leader carries one, as well as one of his members in his team. We got all the first aid kits, CAS care kits, CAS bags, 2 free CAS bags.
Yeah,
we carry
gases,
a lot more.
Everything.
So the technology has changed greatly. Have the challenges changed over the 40 years?
What I think the greatest change really has when the team and the Dartmoor teams first formed back in the late 60s and up to us in 1976, we were there predominantly as a resource to help out with moorland-based search and rescue work. So where the police had reports of people who had got themselves lost or injured on the moors, then they would call on the Dartmoor rescue members to help them with bringing that to a conclusion. The biggest change, I suppose, in the 40 years from that predominantly has been is that now we are tasked by the emergency services to help them with a lot more than work. So it could be vulnerable members of our society, such as Alzheimer's dementia sufferers, despondents. That's hence the reason why our work is getting wider and wider across the county, and we've seen us going from half a dozen call-outs a year in the early 80s up to sort of the 37 that we've had so far this year. And we're also getting called more and more for major incident work as well. So we were called up to as part of a mountain rescue response to York last Christmas to help with the flooding events up there. So we've now invested a lot of money, time and energy in bringing ourselves up to the training standards expected to help the fire service with flood, not just swift water rescue, but also flood response and flood relief as well.
So the expectations have grown. How you give your time, your volunteers. I wonder what this gives you in return.
I expect if you asked every member, they'll give you a different response. I mean, personally, from my point of view, I've been walking and spent a lot of time in the outdoors since I was a child. I did 10 tours in 1980. I helped with various school and Duke of Edinburgh groups over those times, and so you get to the stage where you want to give something back to the outdoor community, where there's quite a strong bond, I think, with people who spend their time in the outdoors, and you want to self-help each other. Yeah. And when we experience that with paddlers on the River Dart, during the winter, the River Dart is a very well-known river, and they tend to self-help themselves a lot with any instance that they have. Not that they get that many, to be honest, because they're a very responsible bunch of people, but so there is that camaraderie spirit, I think. So you just want to give something back. So that's one reason I do it. But it's a fabulous bunch of people. I mean, we have a lot of fun, but when the work needs to be done and the call-outs come in, you knuckle under and you focus on the job in hand. So it takes over your life. It's a huge commitment.
Yeah, I started walking the moors in the early 70s. And like I said, really, it's like, giving something back to the community. And like I said, it's meeting a lot of different people. I've seen a lot of different people come and go in the section over the years, and but we we'll get on like a house on fire sort of thing, like in that. We do sometimes have ups and downs, like most organisations sort of thing like that, and that is pretty good.
In the book, there's a lot about the early days, a lot of photographs that you can see were taken very early on in those days, and you can see that there was a lot of pride taken in the fact that you were setting up something new. I wonder now, 40 years on, has that pride been replaced with a sense of prestige in the heritage of your operation?
There is always that. I mean, there is a lot of pride in the heritage that we've built up over the last 40 years, absolutely. I think now, I was part of one of the teams in the early 80s, and the difference I noticed when I rejoined the Ashburton team in about 6-7 years ago is that the standards have gone absolutely sky high compared to what they were back then. Things are much more professional now. The training programs that we have, it typically take 12 to 18 months for a trainee to get through in order to meet the required standard to become a call-out member. So there is that sense. There's always that sense of pride, and when we put the book together, seeing the pictures and some of the stories came out, restored that nostalgia and the reminiscence, especially as far as Steve's concerned, of some of the jobs that we've been involved with over the years. But we're also very proud of where the team is today. We had a new control vehicle last year, which cost us something in the region of £35,000 to equip, which we did predominantly ourselves. We sourced the vehicle professionally, but when it came to fitting it out and putting all the kit, the computer equipment that we use these days into the vehicle, we predominantly did that ourselves. And we're very proud of the job that the vehicle does and how well it's doing now. So there's a lot of pride in what the team does, and a lot of pride in your colleagues who excel in so many different ways with the different jobs they do, and they've all got day jobs, and they give up an inordinate amount of time to be part of the team, and I'm sort of the guilty of a lot of that, because I'm always moaning at them to get involved with fundraising. But with that, the training and the call-outs, it's a fabulous part of a team to be part of.
Well, boys, we're very proud of you and very, very grateful that you're looking after us. Ramblings of a Mountain Rescue Team is completely coincidentally out in time for Christmas. And what a lovely present it would make, wouldn't it? What a
brilliant stocking filler.
Smashing present. I think you should buy in bulk. It's out now. Thank you very much for joining us.
BBC Radio Devon.
Your home